I am joined by two amazing travelers, and it's Gunnar Garfors and it's
Ildikó Szabó. You need to practice this part.
Okay. See, that's why I edit. Ildikó Szabó.
Mm-hmm.
Szabó.
I know it's a bit different.
Ildikó Szabó. Ildikó Szabó.
Ildikó Szabó.
Ildikó. And we're joined by...
I'm sorry.
Let's just get started.
Meet Barbado on an epic journey around the world. This is The Radio Vagabond.
Hey there, I'm back with fresh material. I know that I've been away a lot on that front this year, but now I'm back with new episodes from exciting destinations in the beginning of January. But we start with a miniseries recorded in Yerevan, Armenia in October. Here I attended the first ever Extraordinary Travel Festival and got the chance to speak to some extraordinary travelers. You'll get 8 episodes between now and the new year. 2 episodes every week, and you'll still get flashback episodes every Friday, so we're going to be busy. Here are the people you can meet in this miniseries. Boris Kester, Charles Veley, Daniel Shachory, David Yang, Francis Tapon, Gus Rosted, Mette Ehlers Mikkelsen, Odette Ricasa, Paul Barbado, Romaine Welds, Slawek Muturi, and Tony Giles. But we start with Hungarian Ildikó Szabó and Norwegian Gunnar Garfors. My name is Barbado, and this is The Radio Vagabond, episode 236 from Yerevan, Armenia.
If travel is your passion and you want escapism while still upholding your work and family responsibilities, you can travel vicariously from the comfort of your own home. This is The Radio Vagabond Podcast.
This episode is brought to you in part by Hotels25.com. It's a website that helps you find the best prices on hotels and guest houses and hostels around the world in one simple search. Hotels25.com.
Ildikó Szabó.
Ildikó Szabó. You need to practice this part.
Was born and raised in the countryside of Hungary, and she was a late starter when it comes to traveling. She was 18 years old when she left her home country for the first time, and it wasn't until she was almost 22 when she set foot on an airplane. At the age of 25, she went on her first solo trip outside of Europe when she went backpacking in China, Thailand, Sri Lanka, and United Arab Emirates. And then she really caught the travel bug and decided to pursue a career in aviation. In 2019, at 36, she achieved her goal of visiting every country in the world as the first Hungarian and among one of the youngest female travelers achieving this milestone without any sponsorship.
Right. Well, I'm from Hungary, and I happen to be the first Hungarian to travel every country.
Not just the first Hungarian woman, but the first Hungarian.
That's right. And also, well, I visited also Antarctica last year, so that was also my last continent. I finished with KSA in 2018.
And KSA is?
Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Of course. I know that. I was there a year ago, but just for the people who don't know.
For your audience, that's right.
Yeah. But I noticed on your Facebook page it says that you've been to all the UN countries, and then you've been to 225 UN plus countries. Can you explain what the UN plus
of course,
is?
Like places which are disputed places or unrecognized or partially recognized countries. So I just added to the list. So I went to places like Abkhazia, Transnistria, South Ossetia, Western Sahara, Northern Cyprus.
Kosovo,
and I keep
Taiwan.
still going. Yeah, let's see when it's going to be the end.
And can I come up with a tiny bit of a fun fact about Hungary? Because Hungary in Norwegian, Swedish, Danish and German is Ungarn, which is an anagram of Gunnar. So, in many ways, Hungary should be my favorite country.
And
I never thought of that.
And is it your favorite country?
Well, of course it is. Well, there are some issues with regards to the politicians, let's say. But other than that, it's a marvelous country.
Yeah,
and I didn't know about this, actually.
No.
A colleague of mine, he said, well, you know, Ungarn is an anagram of your name. So, what?
Yeah. And I just, I had a week to spare earlier this year in my crazy travels this year, and I went back to Budapest, and I just love that. When I walked out of my Airbnb and it came back to me and said, okay, now I remember why I went. I just love that city. I need to see more of the country, but...
So give me a shout when you're next around.
I will. Are you there?
Oh, hopefully. Let's see. tell me in advance and I'll make sure I'm going to be around.
Yeah.
Apart from being an anagram, Gunnar is a journalist, public speaker, and best-selling author, and he has visited every country in the world twice, and he was the first person to do that. He holds many records, but an interesting one is a Guinness World Record that he set in 2012, together with Adrian Butterworth, by being the first to visit 5 continents in the same day. Gunnar has written several books, with the first one called How I Ran Out of Countries. Gunnar also writes on his travel blog, garfors.com. Like me, he's worked in the radio industry for many years. In fact, we found out that we've attended many of the same radio conferences in the past. Now he's funding his life and travels as a writer and a public speaker. He grew up as the oldest of 7 children in the tiny village of Naustdal on the Norwegian west coast. Currently, he lives in Oslo when he's not on one of his many journeys because he still feels that there's a lot to see.
There will never be an end. There's always new places to explore.
That's right. As long as you have 2 legs and some air in your lungs, right?
Absolutely.
You keep rolling.
Yeah. And Gunnar, at some point you ran out of countries too, and then you decided to go again.
Yeah, well, these things happen.
In fact, you wrote a book called something about you ran out of countries.
How I Ran Out of Countries.
Yeah.
Came out in 2014 in Norwegian and the year after in English.
Yeah.
And so I ran out, as I called it, in 2013. I ran out again in 2018. For the second time, it started as a book project. I mean, I'd traveled a lot, and I was writing a book about the least visited countries in the world, the 20 least visited.
So the new book's not going to be called How I Ran Out of Countries again.
Well, that would be a nice title, wouldn't it? So I was researching these countries, and UNWTO, the World Tourism Organization, they have a list over all the countries in the world and the tourist numbers. Well, I mean, they should have, but there are some blank spots on this list, and those constitute the least visited countries. So I had to go back to these in order to research the book, to talk to people, interview exciting men and women in these countries. So many exciting stories from places most people have never heard about.
No.
And eventually I traveled to around 25 countries, the white spots on the UNWTO list. And then I started thinking, well, I've been to quite a few countries twice. And I started counting, and I was only lacking around 30. And I just couldn't resist to visit the last 30 or so for the second time. And if you think about it, no country deserves to be visited only once.
I so agree. And also because some of the places, like Mauritania, I spent very little time in. So it's not high on my list of great countries. Let's put it mildly. But then I feel I'm unfair. I spoke to Ricasa, who's been there, and he's had a great time. I spoke to many other people who loved the place. So I feel it's unfair, and I need to go back. And then there are the places that I love, like Cape Town, that I keep coming back to, and Budapest. So there is that, and so I so agree. Yeah.
And of course, it gives you an opportunity to visit new places in the country, or to revisit friends you might have made. But primarily, when I go back to a country, I try to visit other parts compared to where I've been previously. A little bit difficult in countries like Nauru, which is tiny, or the Vatican. But other than that, you can usually visit new places.
Yeah. And when you, this is for both of you, and when you visit a country, it's not just about ticking off a box, am I right?
Well, here's the thing. We all know some people, how they travel. My policy would be definitely step out of the airport, regardless of safety issues, and spend 1-2 days. Of course, for me as well, it depends how is the safety, but it could be, I spent, for example, in Libya, 2016, only 2 days. But that was really risky. Mm-hmm. And to go to Leptis Magna those days, it was impossible, literally. Nobody wanted to take me, but then I found somebody. So my idea is, if you travel, make sure you see something of the country, regardless, even if it's even if it's in the deepest problems or
I totally
in that
agree.
zone or war-torn countries, because it's not about GPS coordinates, just to take a screenshot. It's not about, I have my visa. Maybe you didn't even clear immigration. For me, it's about more going and engaging with my surroundings. I like to see people. And that's also my travel style, that I usually try to stay with local guest houses run by local families, because this is the way how I like to travel, or taking public transport. So for me, it's more about people and get to know people when I am in the country.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if you think about it, and I mean, people should travel exactly the way they want to.
Yeah, no judgment.
And no, not at all. At the same time, if you talk to people, and a lot of people travel to all these countries, or to every country in the world, for bragging rights. And then, so then if you have bragging rights, you're probably going to brag about it. Oh, I've been to every country in the world. I say, wow, that's amazing. So how was Burundi, for instance? Well, I don't know. It was only in the airport. It sort of makes you feel like a bit stupid. Yeah. And I think it should be about all your senses. It should be about meeting the people there. It should be about tasting the flavors, feeling the atmosphere, and actually get a sense of the country. And this will also make us come closer as human beings. Yeah. We get to understand other cultures. We talk to them. We understand their backgrounds, their beliefs. We understand why they are the way they are. You know, it might have to do with religion, politics, I don't know, previous wars, current wars. There's so much stuff we need to get to know, and the only way to do that is by getting your feet on the ground.
Yeah, and I also feel that it's also about the size of the country. I've been a week in Moscow, and I don't feel I've been to Russia.
No, exactly.
And I spent a day trip in Andorra, and the same with Liechtenstein and San Marino. And I feel I've seen the country. I engaged with the locals. I had a lunch. I did a few interviews for the podcast. And so I feel I've been there. You were in a tiny island where you ran around?
Yeah. Yeah, I just mentioned Nauru, which is 21 square kilometers. There is a circle route around an island, which is almost...
let's put it on the map.
It's in the Pacific, just south of the equator. It's almost like a total circle.
It's got a little landing strip, so...
Oh, yes, there is an airport. I think, which
it's not a big Boeing that can land there, but...
Well, no, they have 737s coming down.
Oh, really?
I think they can take down a 747 also without a problem. So Nauru Airlines, at their peak, I think they had 5 or 6 737s. So they had a network across quite a few countries in the Pacific.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you go there are around 12,000 people living there. There's not a lot of things to do. I mean, of course, you have beaches all around. Yeah. Not most of them are suitable for swimming. You have lovely locals. But you're there. You have a few days, and you're sort of thinking, what should I do? You know, and it's one of the few countries in the world you can actually run around, because this circle road goes all around the island.
I don't think I could though, but it's like a half marathon.
Well, almost. Yeah, it's 19 kilometers. It used to be 19 kilometers. Now it's almost 20. But the first time I did it, I've now done it twice. The first time I did
clockwise and anti-clockwise.
Well, exactly. Of course, yeah, you have to do. So the first time I decided to do it. Just, before I landed, I could see the island and say, wow, that's amazing. I have to run around this country. What I kind of forgot to take into account was what I just said. This is just south of the equator. So maybe I should not run at noon, which is what I did. Mm-hmm. So I almost died trying to make it around. I managed in the end. I had to sort of stop jogging to walk. And then when I came back the second time, I ran the other way around. But then they had before, every time a plane landed, they had to close the road because the road went across the runway. But now they've actually built a road around the runway, which has extended the road network a bit, and the circle around the island is a little bit longer. So now it's almost 20 kilometers. So, if you run back and forth on the runway, in extra time you have your half marathon. Yeah. And this time, the second time, of course, I did not run at noon.
No.
So I learned something.
So the third time you're going to climb the highest mountain in the country.
Exactly, which is not very high. But it is, and you see all around Nauru, you see all these tsunami warnings. Of course, if you get a tsunami here, people are in trouble. And it's just arrows pointing towards the highest point, which the highest point, I'm guessing, around 50 or 60 meters. But, get as high as you can in case of a tsunami. So, but climbing the highest point is not very difficult.
What did you do on the island?
Tuna sashimi, to summarize. And actually, believe me or not, I made friends with the head of immigration, so I had a dinner invitation. Yeah.
Nice.
So he took me to this amazing restaurant, and of course, there is actually a hotel Budapest in Nauru, which was in construction, right? I think it's already ready.
I stayed there.
I went there. Did you stay in Hotel Budapest?
I stayed one night in Hotel Budapest, yes.
How was it? No, I need to ask, because 2016, September, I was there, and it was only just, they just constructing the hotel. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, the reason I only stayed one night, I wasn't going to stay in Hotel Budapest. I'd stayed elsewhere. And then I went to the airport. I was going to leave after 3 or 4 days. I come there and walk over to the counter and so no, there's no plane today. It's cancelled. Mm-hmm. So, okay. So when is it running? Or when is it going? We don't know. So, well, okay. I guess you're going to put me up in a hotel or something. No. Well, is Nauru Airlines not part of the IATA? IA what? So I said, okay, so I have no rights as a passenger when you cancel your flight. No. And they helped me find, at least they were very hospitable, they helped me find a spot at Hotel Budapest.
Well, the general rule is, I don't know if you know, they short of accommodation because they have loads of crew booked into hotels in case something going on with the flight. They need to put the operating crew. So, for example, when I visited, I think I stayed in Eva Lodge. They had awful lot of empty rooms, but the reason what was behind, they have to keep it for airline crew in case, God forbid, something going on with the flight. Mm-hmm. By the way, how did you end up with the stray dogs? Because there's awful lot of stray dogs, I recall it in Nauru when I was walking around.
Well,
but the beauty of it, people also, you don't even need to hitchhike, they just give you a ride. And as we know, some people wanted to go to Australia, right? It's famous for the detention center, and there are all these people coming out. And for example, I went to a Lebanese restaurant. The guy was trying to make it to Australia. He ended up in a detention center, and they never leave, right? Because they don't even have the papers.
No.
So it's actually fantastic because you can ask all these questions, and they're already wondering, are you a journalist, or why are you asking all these questions? But yeah, I mean...
they don't like journalists in Nauru because they... so if you are a journalist and you want to apply for a visa, I'm not sure if this rule is still in place, but it used to be like you had to then pay a processing fee for your visa of $8,000 US, or it might have been Australian dollars probably. Yeah. But that did not guarantee you a visa. So because they don't want journalists to dig into the immigration center, which is quite controversial.
So you're saying I shouldn't walk around in the streets with my microphones?
Well, as long as you're in the country, I think you're fine. The problem is, just don't tell them you are a journalist before going in. Would be my advice.
Yeah.
Even when you're there, when you leave.
Yeah.
That's the time.
Yeah.
My name's Bond.
Radio Vagabond.
So, going back to when you were younger, what sparked the desire to travel?
With me, I don't know. The first time I traveled alone or with a friend, without my family, I was 17. It was Interrail around Europe.
I did that too.
Yeah, exactly, including Hungary, by the way, and Denmark. So that kind of triggered something. It's like, wow, this is amazing. And then I moved to the US. I was an exchange student and went studying in the UK. And then I started traveling a bit here and there. And in 2004, one of my brothers and me, we were, and he used to be a teacher, so he had autumn holiday or fall holiday.
Yeah.
So he had 1 week off, and we were saying, well, we have to go somewhere. Not like boring like France.
No.
And we read an article in a local newspaper about Kyrgyzstan. There were some engineers for hydropower plants. They were coming to Norway to learn about hydropower. I was a Kyrgy what? And I've never heard about a place.
Let's pull out the atlas.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we did. The paper atlas.
Yeah, exactly.
And oh, that's very interesting. And then we started looking for tickets, and of course it was really, really expensive. And we said, well, okay, on a teacher's salary, and I was working for NRK at the time, so we said, well, that's a little bit much. This was a Saturday. I'm back at work on Monday. This was before smartphones, so I was not constantly checking my emails. So back at work on Monday, I have an email with an invitation to speak at a conference in Kazakhstan. Which would pay my flight. So I called my brother Oystein and said, you're not going to believe this. And it was the week he had off for autumn holiday. It was, it was so good. So I said, okay, I'll pay half your ticket because I get mine for free. So we then went to Kazakhstan, went to Kyrgyzstan.
You're a good friend.
Well, it's my brother. Yeah, he's a marvelous friend. And I loved it so much. So I just decided I'm going to visit all the Stan countries, all the countries ending with Stan, 7 of them.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my first quantitative travel goal, if you like. And I finished this in 2009, and I just wanted more. I was hooked on travel, and I decided to go for every country.
Yeah. What about you?
So, just looking back at my childhood memories, I was always fascinated with Sir David Attenborough's documentaries, right?
Yeah.
You're flipping through Nat Geo magazines, or wow, what about the pyramids of Egypt, right? Not knowing that Sudan has more pyramids at the time. But anyway, so I was really fascinated always about geography and flipping through the World Atlas, same story, right? And the funniest fact, my first ever passport happened to expire without even having one stamp in it, okay?
Oh.
And I'm quite late. Yes, I know. I was born and raised in the towards the communist era in Hungary, right? So people would often go to Austria, let's say, just for shopping. So that was the main idea of my family. So we get all passports, and we never ended up going on this trip. I was looking for the passport. Sadly, I don't have it anymore. Now, fast forward, I was 18 first, so I'm relatively late starter. I was 18 when I left the country, which was to Italy, to Rome, to a Catholic youth festival. Now, when I finished 2018, I just recalled, I'm actually attending in Riyadh a youth conference. What a coincidence. Is it actually a coincidence that I was on a youth Catholic festival and now I'm on a youth conference again as my last country? Well, then I happened to get 2 scholarships, so I was living in Germany and Finland. And I did my second degree in the UK, so it was part of the game always. Whenever I ended up living, just, visit the surrounding countries, the neighbors. And, well, I think my first backpack trip was when I was 22. That was the first time I left, actually, Europe. And I ended up just, being hooked up with traveling. Mm-hmm. And, well, I get an airline job later because I figured maybe this is going to be the way for me to go. And, of course, it helped me quite a bit. And 2012, I think, I was about maybe 80 countries or 90 countries when I had a sleepless night. And I started to Google, has anybody been to every country? Is it even possible, right? Because at the time, you probably can relate, Gunnar. It wasn't a lot of people chasing this like these days. Lots of people chasing these days 193, but back those days, not many. So I just came up with the idea, and I was very persistent, and, well, dreams come true. I always say that.
But back in the day, it's so daunting to say you want to go to every country in the world. So is there anything that you would like to go back and tell yourself? Any advice you'd give yourself starting out? For if you could go back to your younger Gunnar.
What would you suggest? What would you say? Yeah.
Well, then I probably would have told myself to quit my job way before I quit my job, which I did a year and a half ago, and just pursue the traveling, being a full-time traveler, and to do that much earlier.
Yeah, so you say you quit your job a year and a half, and now you write books and you do public speaking, and that's your main...
that's how I make a living, yes. Yeah. And before that I worked 20 years at Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation.
Yeah, NRK. But I guess they needed to be flexible, because you already, as we've heard, travel a lot.
Absolutely.
So how was that? Were you a foreign correspondent, or were they just giving you a lot of time off?
No, well, no, I started out as a journalist, and then I moved on to more technical stuff. I was a project manager. I was a CEO of a daughter company. I was president of an international radio organization. So I did loads of stuff. But I moved away from journalism, and in the end, I kind of wanted to go back to that. Uh-huh. And I also wanted to travel. So that's essentially why I quit, in order to write books and so on. But yeah, NRK has been a marvelous employer. I mean, I've been quite flexible, and instead of accepting overtime pay. I took out the time in holidays, you know. So I was making weekends longer, maybe leaving work on Wednesday afternoon, flying somewhere, returning on the Sunday, landing in Oslo Monday morning, going home for a shower and straight to work. So, you know, I did quite a lot of that.
So your colleagues would say, where have you been this weekend?
Yeah, no, pretty much. And once, you know, this is really stupid, but they always ask me this. And I said, okay, so I should really go somewhere stupid, you know. And where's the most stupid place you can go on a weekend when you live in Norway? Well, probably Australia.
For a weekend.
For a weekend. So I said, yeah, this is so stupid. So I should actually do it. You know, I'm usually convinced when it comes to stupid plans, but I didn't really want to, you know, pay for a ticket to Australia just, you know, to go for a weekend. But then I was invited to speak at a conference. So, again. So I have been on a day trip to Australia. And then, you know, I came back on the Monday and said, where have you been this weekend? And I told them, and of course they didn't believe me. So it was total waste.
Oh my God.
But that was fun, you know, and although I wouldn't recommend it. Of course, you should stay much longer. Wherever you go, you should stay much, much longer than a day or a weekend, I think.
Yeah, especially Australia. I'm gonna get there in December, and I plan to stay a long time.
Yeah.
As long as I almost can, because it's so much to see.
Well, there is, and I just needless to say, I've been back a lot of times to Australia. So
of course.
It's I wouldn't be satisfied with a day in a country.
No.
We'll be right back. Have you been listening to the flashback episodes, like the one that came out this Friday from El Salvador? Here I speak to a Salvadorian about what makes El Salvador unique.
I believe what makes El Salvador unique is the people. The people, actually, what you hear the most about El Salvador is that we have the most welcoming people around Central America. Anywhere you're at, there's always a Salvadorian trying to help you out, even though they don't speak English or they try to speak their broken English to you. They will try to figure out how to help you. And I think that's a big thing in El Salvador. Salvadorians themselves, ourselves, very welcoming. That's what identifies the country. And the volcanoes that we have as well, right? A lot of volcanoes that we do have in El Salvador.
Yeah, tell me, because a lot of them are still active.
Yeah, at least 6 active volcanoes in El Salvador, even right here that we are in downtown San Salvador. We have one volcano, it's Santa Ana volcano, the oldest and the highest of the volcanoes in the country, that is pretty active. The last time that it erupted was back in 2005. And you can actually hike this active volcano, and once you step on top of the crater, you overlook this sulfur lagoon, greenish color because of the the sulfur minerals around, and you do see some bubbling, and you do smell some. Oh yes, yeah, very vivid.
Now, go listen to the entire episode. The Radio Vagabond.
Any of the countries are dangerous or difficult? Because that's what a lot of people say to me. Oh, it's so dangerous out there. Let's do the danger first.
Well, it's dangerous to cross the street. I mean, you will die at some point anyway. So if you're going to walk around and What? I'm really sorry to reveal this to you. So, no, I think, but this is the notion a lot of people have. You know, travel means danger.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, you know, it's dangerous to live. You know, you might be hit by the bus or a tram, or you know, something might fall down from a roof, or you might be mugged or whatever in your hometown.
I was in a very bad car accident 500 meters from where I lived.
Yes, exactly. And they say, you know, most accidents happen near your home, so you should never be nearby your home, you know, to avoid these accidents. No, so you know, it's all about. And so what are you going to do then? Then you hide inside your closet in your house for the rest of your life because you're afraid of accidents, and then your house will probably burn down anyway. So you know, come on, just open up. Leave the fare at home and go travel. You know, wherever you go, most people are very hospitable. They're very happy to see you in their country. I mean, people are people, and we have a tendency to like each other and to welcome other people.
Yeah. Have any of you been marked or kidnapped or been in some kind of tricky situation?
I've been mugged in Gabon. 2 guys jumped me, and at midnight I was walking down the street in Libreville and pulled me up in a dark alley. And I've been thinking about this for years and years. I'll be mugged at some point for sure. I'm certain about it. So my strategy was, when I get mugged, or if I get mugged, I will give away everything: my phone, my passport, everything, because it's not worth it losing your life over documents. No. But these 2 guys, they jumped at me and they had a taser gun they were shooting with, and I didn't even notice the taser gun. I was furious. They dragged me up down on the ground, ripped my shirt under my suit jacket, and I became so furious, got so much adrenaline, and I managed to fight back and then drag the guys back out into the lit street.
Really?
And of course, I did exactly the opposite of what my strategy was, but I just became so furious, and I said, "You're not taking my bloody passport."
I got stamps in there.
I got stamps in there. And I was in Gabon. There's no embassy, Norwegian embassy in Gabon. I would have been, that would have been hell. Suddenly I'd be stuck there maybe a month or 2, and that would not be very convenient, let's say. But of course, it would have been better to lose my passport than lose my life, my life. So if they had a knife or a real gun, that I would have been dead. So it was a really stupid thing to do, and I'd even trained in my mind to not react that way. But when it happened, that's how I reacted. Really strange, but it ended well, luckily. Touch wood.
Have you been in danger?
I'm complete opposite of you. Well, I've been mugged once, and yeah, that's it. In the night time, having my, night bus stop, even missed that night. Anyway, I used to live in London, so that was actually just one street, like not even 100 meters away from the place I lived. I was mugged. But I fought and I yelled in every single possible languages I can. And you know what was the funniest story? The police officers were around the corner, right? They didn't hear even nothing, like not even a single voice. And then we were just like touring around, the surroundings to find this lovely gentleman who happened to think it would be funny to say hi or say goodbye to my bag. And, well, we didn't find him, but they were, laughing at me. It's like, what is so funny, gents? I need to ask. And they were like, well, we were just around the corner. I'm like, that's great. Now, the second time, I had a second time. And I had a third time, but the third time is not exactly related to mugging. Second time, it was also mugging, but there was a knife involved in Jakarta. Like, not even a knife, I would say a sword, about 20 centimeters zigzag kind of sword. I'm one of those who is like, now this is what I need to actually learn, because they didn't point, or the guy didn't point at me, right? One of those guys who hops off the motorbike, thinks, all right, you are a great target because you are, well, I used to be blonde at the time. You're blonde, you're really, outstanding as a tourist, and you have a nice DSLR camera hanging on you. Anyway, and, well, I fought back. I twisted actually his hands, and, well, this is what I ended up, my second lifeline. I have actually
you're showing your hand to me, and there's a tiny scar.
It's like I stitched my hand together, I call it second lifeline. But guess what? They found the guy. I had to go back to the police and, well, identify him. Yeah. Was it this dude?
There was a lineup.
Well, what to do? They were actually, looking at me, because some locals came as well, being the witnesses, right? And they were explaining what exactly happened. And they happened to compare me with Lara Croft Tomb Raider, because even my outfit was kind of like the tank top, which wasn't very appropriate. So learning point is, this was back about, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And I was wearing shorts and a just a tank top. And, well, dress a little bit more modest, right? We are in Indonesia. So that's my also learning point from that trip.
But you were fighting like Lara Croft.
Oh, yeah. And they were comparing me to her, so I took it as a compliment anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank God nothing's happened to me yet, but I also tell myself it's probably going to happen at some point. I tell you, Gunnar, I would never, both of you, I would never do what you guys have done.
It was totally unplanned, but,
Oh
that's
yeah,
what
and
happened.
he didn't mug me, okay? He ran away with an empty bag. Good luck with the sightseeing of Jakarta because it has a map on the... Yeah? Everything fell off the bag. That's the funniest story. Like, literally.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, I met Gunnar and Ildikó at the Extraordinary Travel Festival in Yerevan, Armenia. It was the first conference of its kind, and we all agreed that this was an incredible event.
I've had a fabulous time. It's been an amazing event, and I must say it's been a very different kind of a conference. I mean, I've worked in the media industry for many, many years and been to way too many conferences, and this is totally different because no one here is representing a huge corporation or a big or small business. They're representing themselves. Mm-hmm. They're representing their hobby. They're representing their own experiences, and people are willing to share. They're not going to increase the value of a company or anything like that. So they're sharing, they're paying it forward, and they're giving tips, travel advice, and so on and so forth. It's such a nice atmosphere and warmth at this conference. I've never experienced anything like it.
And I feel that this is a community where people are not keeping secrets to themselves. They're eager to help each other.
Well, that's the beauty, isn't it?
And that's the main idea of it. I mean, this is a great initiative if you're thinking about it. Because how many times you hear about other people, how many other people completed the UN map and you don't get to see them in person? I mean, I know a few of the people, but this is also a great thing to know each other, to get to know each other, hang out and know more about our travel experiences. And as you're saying, sharing is caring. Mm-hmm. I know it's kind of like, yeah.
And it's... There's no network building here. It's establishments of friendships, as opposed to any other conference.
One of the sentences I think I heard the most was, "Oh, it's so great finally to meet you in person."
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Well, everybody's always somewhere traveling, so
exactly.
We need something like this to actually meet.
Yeah. And Rick asked me, the organizer asked me yesterday, where would you like the next one to be? I have an answer for that, but what are your thoughts?
Oh, it could be anywhere. I guess it's a bonus for a lot of people if they haven't actually been to the town or
hard
city
for you,
or
Gunnar.
Country. Well, there are still loads of there's still loads of towns and cities I haven't been to. Yeah. It's impossible to travel everywhere. So, but I mean, I'm easily traveled. I'll go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we were having this debate actually with the rest of the people here, and we came up with few ideas, right?
Aha.
So. Number one, Cape Town, because you could go, all around safaris, wine tasting. You can go to Lesotho, Swaziland.
Mm.
Number two,
and it's my favorite city.
Same, one of my favorites. So package diving, in case you're still alive after the conference, you can still keep your adrenaline up.
I haven't done that yet, but
I've done it just this year.
Yeah, but maybe I should do it next week because I'm going to a Nomad conference in a few days. So
all right,
fantastic.
Yeah.
So number two was that would be my suggestion, but that would be very similar, I think, to this venue, which would be Moldova. There is Transnistria again.
Yeah.
Everything is given green, lush, not super touristy, and I think they need some, booming tourism as well. If you think about it.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
Istanbul, maybe, easy access. But again, I don't know how other people would get excited about Istanbul as a venue for a conference, right? Yeah.
Then you have, we can always support Ukraine.
Yes,
yeah.
That would be my idea, actually, Ukraine as well. But right now, we don't know how it's going to be there, right, the situation.
No.
But, yeah.
No, that's very true. And we could, maybe we should move away from Central Asia or Europe. I mean, we're still debating whether we are in Europe or Asia right now. I've asked people who are here, Armenians, and they seem to be 50-50.
Yeah.
Now, we are sort of culturally European, but...
Yeah, that's what they say in Georgia as well. Yeah.
Yes. So maybe we should find a different continent, at least, so we kind of move about.
Yeah, Cape Town, or maybe Rwanda. I was when I was there, I saw this amazing building that they have as a conference center, and I thought, oh, this could be a great spot for a TBEX conference or this. I just when I was asked, I just said, well, I wouldn't choose a big typical European or North American city that is too easy. It has to be a little bit so, and at the same time, I wouldn't choose a place where it would be difficult for many people to get into. So somewhere in between, leaning more to something different and unexpected.
Maybe the Seychelles. I think they have they open for every passport, as far as I can remember, without a visa.
Might be expensive.
This is exactly what was in my mind when I said Moldova, right? Because let's put it this way, the attendance tickets is already skyrocketing. If you go to some really expensive place, what's going to be? So it should be more available for more people. That would be my idea.
Yeah.
It's still up in the open where the next extraordinary travel festival is going to take place, but according to Ricasa, who's in charge of organizing it, he's working on doing the next one in 2024. I had so many interesting conversations in Yerevan, and in the next episode we'll feature another extreme travel legend, Giles Veley. He did something not many people have done, got the chance to visit the world's most remote island, Bouvet.
I get a call in December, and my daughter's 1 month old, and Sam from South Africa says we've just agreed that we're going to go to Bouvet on the way on this voyage. Can you be there in 3 days?
And then you put down the phone and went to your wife and said, honey.
That's in the next episode that you'll get in a few days.
We're almost out of time. I'd like to ask you what's next, because you're still traveling, both of you, and I take it you'll never really stop.
Not at all. Never.
Well, this summer I ticked off another really fascinating destination, which was Easter Island. Happened to be on the first passenger flight, and really it was my to-do list, and also Antarctica. So now next I would really like to go back to Ethiopia a little bit, maybe Sudan, and Galapagos I'm missing. Then see how it goes.
And what?
Galapagos.
Oh, Galapagos.
Galapagos.
Yeah, I have not been there either, so yeah, maybe I'll see you there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I'll be there
but
as
of course,
well.
if somebody takes me to a spaceship, I wouldn't say no. So, yeah.
You would, really?
Oh yeah, even one-way ticket to the Mars. Let's rock the party.
Going to the moon.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
I'm writing books, as you said earlier. So my next book will be about the equator and the Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle. So I'll be traveling around these 3 circles, and there are 21 countries bordering them. So I'll visit all of them, talk to people on the ground, and it will be in relation to global warming and how normal people are experiencing global warming at the hottest place in the world, around the equator, and up around the Arctic Circle, where we're seeing a lot more water, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. See, guys, we could go on for hours and hours and hours. So why don't we continue at the next Extraordinary Travel Festival and continue this conversation?
Absolutely, wherever
Sounds
that might
like-
be.
Yeah,
Sounds just like a brilliant idea. See you in Cape Town.
Place your bets.
or Moldova.
Or Moldova.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can find all the relevant links on where you can follow Ildikó and Gunnar in the notes section of your podcast app and on theRadioVagabond.com. My name is Barbado. See ya.
Radio Vagabond.
Produced by RadioGuru.co.uk.